Coach Rachel Lawson entering her 12th season as the Wildcats head coach, which means she's old.
There you go. Well, I want to thank you guys for being here and everybody who's watching. We were just reminiscing. The first time I did this, it was 11 years ago. For year one, we didn't have media day. Year two, they had Guy in the back of the room, and then year three, we had another plant over here. So anyway, we've come a long ways. But the thing that's changed the most in this amount of time is my appreciation for you guys. Year one, I was like, oh, cool, we get to be up there with baseball. This is awesome. And then, a few years after, it was just something I needed to do, was be part of a media day. And now that I'm older, I've come to understand that for us to take the next step, you guys are a big part of that. So I want to thank you for being here. It means a lot to me. We're really excited to open up in a couple days. We're going to Houston on Thursday. It's a great tournament for us. We just figured out right now, I'm going off script, we just figured out right now that 15 of our first 16 games will be against postseason opponents. I didn't realize that till right now, so good luck, Autumn. I'm really excited about this schedule. The other thing that is going to be awesome for us is week 2, we head down to Tampa, which is for the ESPN Elite Invitational. And this is a big deal for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is the only event that ESPN owns, that's the only women's sport that ESPN owns. And it's also, they're putting it on their linear networks in February, which is also a first for the sport of softball. Softball has continued to become a bigger and bigger deal on the national stage. Last year, there were over 1.5 million people who watched the World Series, which was the highest viewed out of baseball and softball since opening day. And part of the Big Blue Nation, we've been a big part of this. In 2016, the University of Kentucky was part of the most watched regular season game on TV. And then in 2017, when we were in Super Regionals against Oregon, that was also the most watched game across the networks on Labor Day weekend. So we've been a big part of this national, well, the rise has happened and Kentucky has been there right in the middle of it. So I feel really good about where the sport of softball is. And I think a lot of that has to do with the media. A lot of it has to do with the support that ESPN has given us. And I just feel great to be a part of this awesome university because we've been given all the resources and the people and the staff and just what we need to do to compete at the national level. So with that, I'm willing, I'll take questions. So.
Well, Coach, you mentioned the first 15 or 16 games have been against postseason opponents.
Yes.
How much do you appreciate having a schedule that is as daunting as that? And with the younger players, your freshmen in particular, how well do you think they'll perform, knowing that that's the challenge?
Well, softball, as far as we've come on TV, there's some things that we're still kind of really far behind on. One of them is scheduling. So we still create our own schedules, and a lot of times you just sign up for tournaments, and then who goes, goes. And so I wasn't really expecting this daunting of a task, and then for ESPN, for this to be the first women's event they owned, and they put it together late, we weren't expecting as many quality opponents as we're going to be there. I mean, we'll be playing Oklahoma, Texas, Oregon, Utah, Hofstra, and JMU, and so we weren't expecting that. With that said, to answer your question, if we were going to do it, this is the year. We have an outstanding senior class. Our junior class is also very good, very seasoned. And while we have a very big freshman class, I think they add a lot to us. We have 2 really strong pitchers in that class, but more importantly, we have a ton of speed, which we've had more and more speed every year, but this year is kind of a difference for us. We have a lot of left-handed hitting now. We have a lot of people we can insert in there to give us the boost that we need. So if we were going to have that type of schedule, I think now is the time for it.
What's the one thing you feel your team has to improve on this year the most?
When I came back from Christmas, or am I supposed to say Christmas? When I came back from the holiday break, I was really pleased by some of the strides that our freshmen made over the break. We had a pretty strong fall. We ended up playing Tennessee. We played, EKU. We played Louisville. We had a strong schedule, and they were out there for that. And, at times they were pretty terrible. And so I was wondering how they were going to take that. But I'll tell you, the resiliency was awesome. And then when they came back from winter break, you saw that they worked so hard to master some of the skills that they weren't getting right. So I felt really good about that. I feel great about where our offense is right now. I think we have an outstanding offense. From a pitching standpoint, I think we have really, really good pitching, but the thing that I think that we're going to have to do a really good job with is commanding the zone. I think that, we've spent such a long time this fall. We really focused on getting swings and misses, and we're really starting to get those. The movement is outstanding. And so I'm seeing us get a lot of big outs, and these pitchers are going against our offense that I think is going to be one of the best in the country. But we're going to have to really command the zone. We're going to have to pound the zone and stay in these games. And when you're playing so many outstanding opponents in such a short amount of time, the thing that you have to worry about is we're playing them on the same day. So we're going to be playing World Series opponents back to back on the same day. So that really, taxes your pitching staff a little bit. So I'm not worried that they can't do it. But the NCAA committee, when they're picking for the postseason, they don't always look and see what the situation is in the beginning. So we have to make sure that we're going out there. You have to find the correct balance of how do I get my freshmen the experience they need so that we're strong in the end to go to the World Series, but at the same time we have to make sure those games so that we can host again. I think hosting was such a big deal for us last year. The fan base was tremendous. We ended up breaking all sorts of records, and I think a lot of that was because of the home field advantage that the Big Blue Nation gave us. And it's really important to us to go out there and perform so we have that opportunity to be a host again.
And speaking on improvements, I know your all's SEC record last year was below 500, so looking specifically at conference opponents, what do you all need to do to make sure that you get to where you need to be in terms of being competitive in the SEC?
Well, the SEC is a really interesting league because Vandy does not have a softball team. It's an unbalanced schedule, so you're really at the mercy of the schedule you get. So you could, in theory, be 8th in the SEC and 12th in the country. And so that's kind of, last year we were given one of those heavier schedules. We did not play one team that was below us last year. We had the number one strength of schedule in the country. And so I think a lot of that was because our SEC schedule was so powerful. With that said, obviously one of our goals this year is to be a lot stronger in the SEC. And a lot of that's going to have to do with, can we continue with the dominant offensive performances we have? Because at some point, I mean, the collective ERA of the pitchers that we had to face last year was well under a 2. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was crazy. So if our offense can continue to do what it did, and if our pitching staff that was so young last year, I mean, we brought in, Grace Ballman was a freshman when she stepped on the field, and Autumn Humes was a transfer from Division II at this point in time. Now they're both experienced, they're both seasoned, and then when we combine them with the rest of our staff, I believe that we will have a complete team that'll be able to hit it hard game one.
All 4 of the players we talked to almost verbatim said the exact same thing, that they were 3 games away, then 2 games away, then 1 game away. How much of that is a message from you that you're kind of saying, we're so close, let's try to break through this year?
Well, one of the cool things about Kentucky is we've been knocking on that door now for a really long time. I mean, I don't even know how many times we've been in supers in the last 6 years, 5 out of 6, I think it is, something like that. So we're there. With that said, with this class in particular, it's such a cool class because they had to come in and add support when, they don't have a pitcher in their class, it just worked out that way, and they had to figure out how to do things on their own. 3 of them have started since their freshman year. 2 of our other seniors have done just an outstanding job since then. I think it's not so much the message from me, it's the message from the program. I think the program expectation is to win and to win at a really high level. And then, of course, when you're from the University of Kentucky and part of the Big Blue Nation, you're looking to go to the Women's College World Series. You're looking for national champions. And so that's what we're striving to do. That's also a reason why we have such a tough schedule. To be the best, we have to play the best, and we have to win. And so I think that, that's the message that the alumni and the fan base and everybody puts down, and I think they've just fully embraced it. These are people that are awesome Wildcats, and we're so proud that they've come through our program.
Rachel, they said that a rising tide floats all boats, and some of the athletic programs within the university have kind of piggybacked off the success of each other. Your program was one of the first to taste that success. How proud are you of that? And is that create some additional pressure for you to continue to excel at that level?
Well, I'm very proud of what we've done as a softball program. You're never satisfied because every year you want to do better, but very proud about where we're at for a lot of reasons. One, I think we do a great job on the field, but more importantly, we do an awesome job in the community, and our GPA remains incredibly high in majors that are very difficult. So I'm very proud of where this program is at. I think one of the reasons that we have gotten a little bit better a little bit sooner than everybody else is, number one, we're very consistent. I've had the same coaching staff since I've taken over at Kentucky, and I think consistency is key. I also fully believe in our athletic director, and I always have, and I believe in his mission, and I think when you have great leadership at the top and you believe in it and you embrace everything that he's giving you, I think that that really helps us. I think also, though, our strength and conditioning program is probably the best in the country, and we fully embrace that day one. And when you look at the size and the speed of our athletes, they're not only getting it done in the classroom, but their commitment to what they do during season and in the off season is tremendous. And now that we've added the nutrition piece and that we've added leadership training, we have fully embraced all of the things that the University of Kentucky has to offer. And I think because of that, we won sooner than everybody else. With that said, I love that all the other teams, it doesn't create pressure because all of us want the same thing. We want a national championship. The other thing that I think is so cool about Kentucky is all of these athletes, they go to study hall together, they go to training table together, they're in the training room together. They do all of these things together. So when you have a winning atmosphere, I think the way for all of us to win a national championship is for all of us to come together. So I'm actually happy that some of the other programs that hadn't seen that success early are seeing it now, and now I'm looking forward to all of us going after a national championship.
In the same way that you've seen kind of physically your players change, just overall in the sport here and around the country, how have you seen that talent get better and seeing the girls do things now that they weren't doing 10 years ago?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think you guys are what makes the difference there. You know, when I first got to Kentucky, it was hard pressed to find. You weren't seeing very many players from the state of Kentucky or in the surrounding areas that were great softball players. You know, they just go into what they know, which at the time was basketball. The amount of coverage that you've given us through the media, through the social media pieces, I don't know the language that we're using, on TV, what's happening is these young girls are seeing everybody play on TV and they want that. And so what's happening is, number one, we're getting a lot of athletes come over into the sport of softball, but number two, they now have real life role models that are women that are out there, that are strong, that are doing right things. And so you're starting to see an influx of better coaching. You're starting to see everything, and now the athletes are tremendous. Now, if you were to go out on the softball field and you were to see a game live, you'd be so impressed by the speed of which these players can play and the amount of power that they generate. I mean, last year alone, I don't know our numbers this year, but last year alone we had 3 girls who were squatting 300 pounds. I mean, you just would not have seen that a few years ago. I know Abby Cheek's breaking records. And the other cool thing is, in the weight room, we're breaking records every year. So we continue to get better and better. So I just think that sports now, it used to be something that only boys did and the girls did. You know, it was fun and you went on. Now, I mean, it's being taken serious. You can see by the numbers of ESPN. You can see by the number of people that are watching it and the sponsorship and the money that's been given into softball. So I think that we're in a really good time, and I think it's really cool that the University of Kentucky is in the mix.
Rich, what's it do for the development of those pitchers that you mentioned earlier, to have Katie and Abby over on that side of the field that can kind of almost eliminate half of the field with their defense?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Well, in the winter, they all went against Katie and Abby, which was not very fun. I mean, just yesterday, Katie, opened up with a home run off of one of our freshmen, so she had to get pretty serious pretty fast. But when I think they're relieved that we're leaving on Thursday, so now that we can face other people. And as far as our defense is concerned, with Shaper behind the dish, she's been back there for 4 years, and then our left side is so strong now that they know that, if they can even get the ball under the hands and jam them up, if they're not able to create the strikeout or whatever, I think they feel a lot of confidence in that. With that said, I've been super impressed with the right side of our infield as well. I think right now you're looking at Alex Martins and Mallory Payton have done a great job on the right side, and when Autumn's not on the mound, she's also somebody who can be in the infield. So I think you're looking at a very, very experienced and a strong infield. And then our outfield is very fast, and of course, Rainwater's back, which is nice to have her back in the mix after tearing her ACL. And then, believe it or not, Kelsey Henson had our best fall of all the Wildcats. So to have such a strong senior class out there defensively, I think really will calm them down a little bit.
Coach Bill always says that good pitching would be good hitting. Can you speak a little bit more detail about your pitching staff and how great they are and what might need to be improved upon?
Well, I love our pitching staff, because they're so diverse. I think that, you know, you have Autumn Humes and Larissa Spellman, who are our oldest ones, and it was really cool. Yesterday, Larissa threw a no-hitter on our scrimmage, which is the first time I'd seen her do that, so that's great. You have Autumn, who's a tad bit, she's a tad bit crazy, so she's just crazy enough to be a really good pitcher, but she's really down to earth and also just such a good teammate. She has great moving stuff. She can move the ball, you know, down, up. She can change speeds, so she really gives a good mix. Of course, you have Grace Ballman, who is, by the way, getting better with the media, thank God, but she is outstanding on the mound. She does such a good job. Also can move the ball around. She's gotten a lot more power this year. You know, last fall she was throwing consistently in the low 60s. Now she's throwing consistently in the mid to upper 60s, which really is a testament to the amount of work that she's done. We also have our hardest ever thrown freshman come in this year in Megan Shorman. Yesterday in the scrimmage, she was bringing it 65, 66, up to 68, which is great. She's been working on mixing speeds and can really spin the ball. And then we have this other crazy lefty. Her name is Tatum Spangler, who, you know, she is the nicest human being in the world. And then I was like, you know, Tatum, you just can't be so nice. And she's still nice, but she's figured out not to be so nice on the softball field. And she has gained about 4 miles an hour, and her stuff's moving all over the place. Unfortunately, she's not controlling it as well as she could right now, but with her work ethic, I assume that within the next couple of weeks, she'll be pretty good.
You were pretty transparent last year about your offense needing to improve to take a next step. Have you seen that be sustained, and what's maybe, is speed a part of the next step in that?
Yeah, I have seen it sustained. I think one of the things, we totally changed our approach, and I gotta give a lot of credit to my coaching staff there, with Christine Hines and Molly Belcher. They did a really good job, and we changed how we went about things. We tried to simplify our offense and simplify their approach in their box, and we ended up working more on approach than we did on mechanics. That made a big difference. So we went from 172 offense in the country, which is horrible. Like, how do you go to a super regionals with that kind of offense, right? I'm still, you know, that shows you how good our pitching was at that time. And then we moved down to, was it 36? 32, it was a huge jump. So obviously the goal is to be in the top 10 in scoring this year. They've sustained the approach part, and I think a lot of that has to do with their maturity as individuals. I think they're so smart and they're so coachable, and I think they've done a great job with that. I think that the key now is, number one, they've had a full year under their belt with that approach, and then yes, I believe to add more left-handed hitting in the lineup and more speed in the lineup is what's helped, and that's what our freshman class has brought us. They are so fast, and they are mostly left-handed. I think we only have 2 right-handed in the group, and they're both middle infielders, so they're pretty quick too. So anyway, I feel confident, you know, once they get a little game experience. Now their eyes are going to be like this when they see the schedule, but hopefully they'll learn quickly, and they're very bright. So I feel good about where they're at.
Coach, you've had a tradition of strong and experienced catchers in your program. How is it you've been able to develop them so well and have them start for so long each time, it seems?
Well, first I recruit smart catchers, and I think number one, I look at, this sounds shocking, but they not only have to be talented, they have to have a high GPA. I look for the intangibles. I look at their parents. I see what kind of parents they have, how they speak with their parents. So anyway, they come in already smart, and they come in mature. And then because of that, all you have to do is really teach them the skill set. If they already have the mentality, then they can do that. And we put such a high premium on defense, always. And that's one of the reasons our offense wasn't as strong. Early on, when we didn't have the fan base and we didn't have the stadium, we put such a premium on just intelligence and things like that. Now we're getting smart players that are also incredibly talented. And from our standpoint, catching is, I think, the cornerstone of our defense. So we make sure that no matter what they do offensively, that player can handle behind the dish. And fortunately for us, all of our catchers have also been very good very good offensive players. So it really just starts with how smart they are.